It's Leke, and in this episode, I'll be talking about ICAN case study examination. All right, ICAN case study exam. It's a case study, and this is how the exam is. You would get a case a week to the exam, and like certain parts of the case, when you get to the exam hall, you get the full case. So they call that pre-scene, the parts you see before the exam. To the exam hall, you get the on-scene. The pre-scene will never change. It's the pre-scene that you are given before the exam is what you meet in the exam hall. So the requirements, what you're supposed to do, will come to you in the exam hall, and the exam is usually 4 hours. All right, so straight to it. What did I do? I had a decent score on my case study, above 70, and this was how I studied, and this is why the mistake I noticed that people make. All right, and the first thing is people underplay the role and the importance of the ICAN case study pack. ICAN case study pack, ICAN case study manual. People underplay the importance of that material, and in my opinion, it is the single most important thing you need to pass the case study exam, and I'll tell you why. And the reason it's the ICAN case study pack is the only material. Speaking from ICAN case study pack 2021, is the only material that spells out the marking guide for a course clearly and explicitly for you to see. You know, this section weighs this mark. It even spells out how to obtain marks, the quality of mark you obtain depending on the kind of solutions you produce. It is that clear and that easy to understand. So it's very, very important. However, because it's a case study, you will not really be asked to define this or say this or explain this. People don't go through the pack. They're like, oh, well, I know it's a case, so let me just say the case and I'll produce solutions. So people tend to ignore the ICAN pack, and it's very, very important. More parts of the pack, all of it, but particularly chapter 8 and the chapter 9. And people ask questions like, okay, so how should my cover page be? Do I need to a sample cover page is in the case study manual. So my executive summary, how should I start? A sample executive summary template recommended by the institute is in the case study manual. And if the institutes are going to examine your solutions, giving you a template, I think it's best you follow that. So there is so my executive summary, there's a question people ask: should I put the requirement one, conclusion and recommendation together, or should I separate it? Now, the answer to that question is also in the ICAN case study pack. Sample executive summary is there. How should I start? What should I include? The sample is there. And interestingly, the ICAN case study pack also indicates the headings in your case that carry marks. And this is why the most important material you need is the ICAN case study manual. Study it. More emphasis on chapter 8 and 9. Understand it well. It will really, really help you. And yeah, in the case study pack, you get to see the courses that weigh marks and things to include in your report. The do's and don'ts of the report are all included. For example, you have this report, you have background as a subheading, you have overview of the subheading, you have the scenario as a subheading in the same case, and not all those headings weigh will be not marks are not allocated to some of those headings. So technically speaking, it's just a waste of time. And also the case study pack, case study manual ICAN 2021 recommends that the executive summary should not be more than 2 pages. And many people don't even know this because they don't read through the case study manual. So the very, very important thing, most important thing is to understand the solution the institute is expecting you to produce and know the format in which you are expected to produce your report. Very, very important. And there are a lot of solutions out there, suggested reports, and I feel like tuition centers make it easy. A lot of reports, samples, solutions on how to approach the case. They make it very, very easy. However, some recommended solutions are not 100% in line with what the institute recommends, especially if you are going through solutions from the past 4 or 5 years. You may want to, of course, the concept is the same, but you want to make sure when you're writing your exam, you are preparing your own report the way the institute wants it. And it's easy to depend on, a sample report has been made, let me just go through it and produce it. And another problem with that is, when the exams are closed, a lot of people, different solutions, suggested solution based on the pre-scene, okay, what people expect, and they go round really fast. And this tuition center has made their solution, and this person has made this. But the problem with that is, it's always about 4 to 5, the popular and the big tuition centers, and their solutions are going around thousands of candidates, and chances are all the thousands of candidates about to write the exam are studying that same material. Now, what does that mean? It means that there's a likelihood that a lot of people will write the report the same way those tuition centers have recommended. So they open it up the same way, use the same words, explain the same way, use the same headings. And that's not too good, because when your examiner is marking your script, it sees the same solution, virtually everybody using the same kind of writing style. But if yours stand out, by stand out, of course, you remain in the case, but you are not. So another thing people do is they sort of memorize suggested solutions, and even if the solution is accurate, the fact that there are thousands of people that are going to memorize the same also makes it a very bad idea. So the most important thing is understand what the institute wants, then draft your own report. Don't be too unique. There's a guideline, follow it, but draft your own report and practice before the exam day. And the pre-scene is not going to change. It's the same pre-scene that's like giving a week to the exam, the same pre-scene that would be in the exam hall. And in addition, the on-scene will be added to it. So you can save yourself a lot of time by studying the pre-scene 4 to 5 times. So you know that when you get to the exam hall, you don't need to read it because it's not going to change. So you're going to save yourself some 10-15 minutes of reading the pre-scene again in the exam hall. If you can stay before the exam, study it very well. Yeah, so 2, the exam, writing the exam, and managing your time. How can I do all of that in 4 hours? Well, I feel like in writing the exam, don't attempt to do the impossible. And what I mean by don't attempt to do the impossible is, first of all, you must understand how would this case study, how will my report be graded. And number one thing is, from the ICAN Case Study Manual 2021, chapter 8 or 9, either of those chapters, check. The report itself, the main report, weighs 84 marks, and the appendix or the computations weigh only 16 marks. That already tells you should not spend most of your time computing. You should spend it trying to obtain 84 marks. And many people don't even know about this marking scheme, but it's in the case study pack. So you should know that, and that should help you plan your time. And I recommend you stick with the institute recommended time, 1 hour for study and answer plan, 1 hour for computation, 2 hours for report drafting. And for the institute to recommend that, it's the best, and that's what I used in writing my exam. But I don't think I can complete the computations within 1 hour. Yeah, that's a valid question, but don't you think the institute knows that? So I would say, when you're writing the exam, have a solid plan, stick with it, and don't attempt to do the impossible. To attempt to do the impossible is to plan to produce a solution that time would not allow you to. So what do I mean? I mean, use your time, the time allocated to your calculations. Don't spend more than 1 hour on all your computations. But I won't be able to finish it exactly. So how do I go about it? Now, depending on the exam you're writing, if it's ratio analysis, you have to prepare for profitability and liquidity and solvency, or investors ratio, depending on the case. What you do is, don't bother trying to do 5 ratios in each category. Just start up with 2 ratios in each categories and start writing your report from those ratios. And if you have spare time, you probably won't. If you have spare time, you can go back and make more computations. So what if you're making trend analysis, make for revenue, make for cost of sales, then leave a space. Maybe you want to make for gross profit. You can make for gross profit because you need a report. Then for the expenses, you can make for one expense, leave the space for another expense, make for this expense, leave the space for another expense. But don't try to do the impossible, because you've tried to, make those computations before coming to the exam, or you saw that you used 3 hours to make those computations the way you want to make them, but you won't have 3 hours to make computations in the exam. So why don't you cut down and plan the key, plan to make the key calculations and leave the space for the ones that you feel are not so important. And if you have time, you come back to them. And that is the only way to complete the exam. When I wrote my exam, I did not complete my calculations. I made the key ones, and there's some ratios under each categories. Maybe I calculated 2, 3. Some said I only calculated 5 and 6 in each categories, but I did not do that because time would not allow me to. So I did not bother trying. And also importantly, the calculations only weigh 16 marks. So if the calculation only weighs 16 marks, I think it's better to ignore it and complete the report that weighs 84 marks. Yeah, but I need the calculations to complete the report. Yes, but you don't need all of it. You need a certain portion of it. So calculate those portions, then draft your report straight up. I completed my report when I wrote my exams. I completed it like requirement 1, requirement 2. Like my report was complete, but my computations were not as much. But I completed the report, and I did that because the report weighs 84 marks. I would rather take my chances with that than stay with a computation that will not give me more than 16 marks. And also in writing too, don't attempt to do the impossible when writing. There's attempts to do the impossible when calculating. There's also attempting to do the impossible when writing. So you are following, I'm assuming you're following the ICAN guide of 2 hours of drafting your report. And now, how much information can you put down in 2 hours? Depending on how fast you write, you probably won't be able to go more than 12 to 15 pages in 2 hours. Then that means you write really fast and you know what you're about to write. If you are slow in writing, probably 10 and 9. You probably know this before you get to the exam hall. So don't try to do the impossible. What do I mean? And this is where understanding the case study manual comes in handy. So let's just say you lay your hands on a suggested report, or you've seen reports from the past diet, from tuition centers, and you see the report is a PDF, A4 size, 12 points, font size, and it's like say 18 pages. Now you know that even if you just want to uncopy without any mental effort, you cannot uncopy that within 2 hours. So don't bother trying to present your report the same way it is presented in the suggested solutions. So what do? You cut out some parts, you cut out some statements, and you cut out some headings. In fact, you might cut out a whole page depending on the content. So what do I remove? What do I retain when writing my report? The answer to that question is in your ICAN case study pack. So you go to the pack. The case study pack already has we call it skill boxes. They have things they test, the headings they examine. Now, anything outside that, there are no marks allocated to them. So what you need to do is the things in that report that are directly related to what the institute will examine. That's what I need. Every other thing is not needed. And the ICAN case study pack also says that there is no need to unnecessarily, make repetitions of what is in the case that's not related to the solution. Say maybe just saying, oh, the case says the company is this kind of company and is this kind. Then you repeat the company is this, and just repeating the case in the solution, the institute discourages it. So don't attempt to write or start up what you can't finish. Let me put it that way. So you know that I have 2 hours to write, and I can only produce 10 to 12 pages. Why should I start writing in a way, start writing like I want to produce 20 pages when I can't? So I know the subheadings I need. Okay, I know I need 7 to 8 subheadings. That's all. What if the suggested solution has 15? Don't bother. The suggested solution is robust, well researched, and you probably don't have time. Even if you know how to, you won't have the time to put all of that down. So know the important subheadings. Okay, I need my introduction. Do I even need an introduction? I just need, there's a sample there. Okay, I need the executive summary. I need this, I need this, I need this heading. There's a template in the case study pack. Those are the headings you need. I need this. I need professional skepticism. I need to put this in. Then draft your report following those subheadings. So, and don't bother making one portion 3 pages, 4 pages at the expense of other portions of the report. So okay, let's just say you can only take maybe 5 headings and at 10 lines, and you just stick with that 5 headings, 10 lines each, and move to requirements. So just make sure your report is complete. Don't do one thing at the expense of another heading. Improve our report, then there is no time to conclude the report. Just write, and you can allocate time to. For this heading, I'm only using 10 minutes. Once it's 10 minutes, if I'm not satisfied, I will leave it and move to the next section. Then if I have extra time, I'll come back. But make sure you touch on all those subheadings, all those sections that I've recommended in the case study pack, because when they are marking, marks will be allocated to those subheadings. So if you totally ignore or don't produce a particular heading in your report, it means you won't get any mark for the heading you did not write about. So make sure you touch on every aspect and every part of the report. I think that's it on writing the exam. So finally, what did I study? What did I use? Well, I used the ICAN case study pack, and I also used previous suggested solutions from tuition centers from the past exams. I reviewed, I think, the 5 exams, the past five exams, pardon me. I reviewed all of that, and I reviewed it alongside the recommended solution from tuition centers. So how can you get that? Well, if you're listening to this, you're probably attending lectures. So just walk up to them and ask. If you ask nicely, they will give you. So tell them that you want to have access to the past case study solutions they made for the past exams, and that you just want to use this to study. They'll make it available. So that's why I used. So I reviewed. Okay, how did they present these answers? I reviewed that, and I also used ICAN case study pack, and that was what I used to study. I hope that you find this helpful and you're able to come up with your style, or should I say strategy, to pass your case study exam. Thank you for listening.